The defense will soon begin cross-examining a prosecution witness, the bookkeeper of the Trump organization, that says that he made the ultimate decision to categorize payments to Michael Cohen as legal expenses because, after all, you're paying Michael Cohen, and he's your lawyer, and Michael Cohen is then pushing that money over to Stormy Daniels, who is looking for an opportunity to make money off the brief dalliance that she had that Trump denies in 2006, and this trial is going as you might expect. I was amazed, and I'll get back to the Israel story in just a moment for those waiting on it. I was amazed. I was catching back up with the news, and early this morning, after getting the lay of the land with regard to some of the dramatic weather events that happen, and we're thinking of all of you folks affected by the weather. If you're just tuning in, we appreciate you. But I'm going back and forth from Fox to CNN. Hashtag, I call them hashtag never CNN. Don't watch CNN. It's a garbage network full of garbage people. I watch CNN so you don't have to. And the different analysis, that it's like we're living in two different planets, on two different planets. The amount of gymnastics, mental gymnastics that go on at CNN to try to make Stormy Daniels' testimony a positive for the prosecution is astounding. So this woman has obviously been a bad deal for the prosecution. The only reason it seems that she was put on the stand to begin with was to try to embarrass Donald Trump by discussing the intimate details of what she claims to be their affair or one-night stand or whatever you want to call it.
She got so salacious that the judge admonished her in front of the jury.
Well, and he should have stopped it way before then, but he didn't.
But that's good for Trump because it makes it look like the judge thinks she's going too far.
Well, she is. I mean, she went places that they had already told them not to go, and she went there anyway, and she discussed these very intimate, detailed moments as she met up with Trump. She intimated, and it's a complete... Regardless of what you think went down, Donald Trump denies it, and I understand why he does, because he doesn't want to get killed by Melania. But regardless of what you think happened, she was claiming or intimating that she didn't want to be there, that it was somehow rape, is where she was going with it. That she was intimidated, that it wasn't a good thing, that, you know, there was a bodyguard present and she didn't like that, and that she felt like it wasn't an equal, I mean, going almost there before actually going there. And that's when she got admonished by the judge at one point. The great week that Donald Trump had involved this case, and I'll get into more of that in a moment. Fani Willis, that case is dead. Just know this. On May 9th, 2024, Matt Murphy's declaring that case is dead. That an appeal court took up the defense argument that Fani Willis did not need to be the prosecutor in that case. That case will never come to trial because it's not coming to trial before the election. Anything that doesn't happen before the election is dead. Okay?
Because it has no value to the other side.
There's no value to it to begin with. This is not about justice. This is about getting Donald Trump.
That's what I mean. Is it's like right now the value is embarrassing him,
right?
And if they don't get it done before the election, they're just going to be like, "Well, that didn't pan out."
And that indicates to me that the Jack Smith Mar-a-Lago case is dead as well. The amount of evidence tampering that has gone on there has raised suspicion with the court, and the court says, I have to go over this information to make sure that you didn't do something as a prosecutor unseemly, and apparently they have. The amount of, there are accusations of Brady violations in that case. There are accusations, more specifically, there are accusations in that case that they took evidence photos after altering the evidence photos to make the evidence photos look worse. Can't do it. Can't do it. If a prosecutor at any point fails to provide a defendant or the defense attorneys for a defendant with any favorable or helpful information to the defendant's case, that's called a Brady violation. A Brady disclosure consists of, and I'm quoting here, exculpatory or impeaching information and evidence that is material to the guilt or innocence or to the punishment of the defendant. The term comes from the 1963 United States Supreme Court case, Brady versus Maryland, in which the Supreme Court ruled that suppression by the prosecution of evidence favorable to the defendant who has requested it violates due process. They're being accused, the prosecution is being accused, Jack Smith is being accused of violating Brady disclosure. Case is dead. Dead. Will not happen before the November elections, i.e., or not i.e., that's for example. Ergo, that's right. Will not happen before the November election, ergo, will not happen at all. Will not happen at all. So there's two down. That leaves us with Jan 6, which is on hold because the United States Supreme Court is determining what amount of immunity the President of the United States has from prosecution of this sort. And they're not expected to rule in that case until at least June. So you had 4 cases against Trump. All of them flimsy. Mar-a-Lago probably represented the best case with regard to a violation of the law that could have been avoided by Trump. I don't know that he was guilty of said violation, but it probably presented the best opportunity for a conviction. Outside of this nonsense happening right now in New York, and I'll get to that in a moment, because this has nothing to do with his guilt or innocence, has nothing to do with whether or not he actually did what they claim he did. Secondarily, it has nothing to do whether or not this will hold up on appeal. I mean, the very fact that you allowed Stormy Daniels to go as far as she went yesterday indicates to me that they don't have any interest in this holding up on appeal. They have an interest in dinging Trump right now for the purpose of using the law to affect an election, which is something that, third-rate banana republics do, not the United States of America, but, here we are anyway. So, Fonnie Willis dead, impropriety, what a ridiculous, I don't know how dumb you have to be to do this and think, either dumb or just so full of yourself that you think you can do what Fonnie Willis did and get away with it, but she thought she could, and that case is now being referred to an appellate court, and it is not expected to be tried in any fashion before the election process. Jack Smith and Mar-a-Lago. Once again, evidence tampering, Brady disclosure violations. It is not expected that case will go anywhere before November, therefore it will not go anywhere. Thirdly, January 6th, that case is happening in Washington, D.C., and in Washington, D.C., the United States Supreme Court is deciding whether or not the president enjoys certain limited immunities from certain crimes suggested that he committed by the prosecution. In that case is going nowhere, one would expect, prior to November. And if that's the case, then the only thing they've got is New York City. And here's the amazing thing. All of this makes him stronger. They're not hiding their desire to prevent him from moving forward. Yes, 3765 says, didn't Stormy Daniels claim she never had an affair with Trump years ago? She did. She signed a non-disclosure agreement in 2016 that said, in effect, if anyone ever says that I had an affair with Donald Trump, it's not true. I never had an affair with Donald Trump. And now she's on the stand saying not only did she have an affair with Donald Trump, but she's never contradicted herself. And when asked about the specifics of the non-disclosure agreement that she signed in 2016, she says that she didn't read it. That's what she said. She said that today, this morning, that she did not read the non-disclosure agreement that she actually signed. In the meantime, here's how sad we've gotten in the United States of America. 0636. Hello, 0636. How are you? 0636 writes in and says, it's sad, really. He needs to be in jail. Well, I'm assuming that you mean Donald Trump, as you don't use your words quite clearly, but we were talking about Donald Trump possibly going to jail, so I'll assume that that's correct. Tell me why. Because his politics are different than yours? Because he's bombastic? Because he's narcissistic? Because he takes policy positions that are different than Joe Biden's? Look, unlike liberals, I'm willing to have conversations along these lines because I think it can educate the general population as to what's really going on. I might have said Stormy Daniels. I don't know, Robert. But if I did, I'll stand by it. Stormy Daniels. It's not, whatever. The defense in the case earlier today actually asked her, because she was all, oh, he made a pass at me. And they said, well, that's not the first time a man has made a pass at you, right? I mean, and CNN is actually using, I was watching this morning that CNN is using the term slut shaming for what they claim the defense is doing. Well, here's the deal. I don't tell people how to live their lives. In America, you're allowed to live a life of your own choosing, and you're going to be judged or not judged based on the life that you live, or, whatever. I don't care about Stormy Daniels. I don't care what she does with her life. It's pretty obvious that she had decided that her career had somewhat dried up in the pornography industry, and that she had a better opportunity to make more money off Donald Trump once she realized that he was running for president of the United States based on something that she claimed happened back in 2006. And so she began shopping that story around. And no one would pay her the money that she was demanding for the story. This is what happened, by the way. No one would pay her the money that she was demanding. And then it got back around to Trump. The reason the National Enquirer, the Pecker guy, was up there is because he was testifying that she was shopping it around to his joint. And he decided that he would let his buddy Donald Trump know about this. And eventually, Donald Trump's people got to Stormy Daniels, knowing that any sort of allegation of an affair would be embarrassing to him, would be embarrassing to himself and his family, and would ultimately potentially impact or affect his presidential candidacy, which is just fine. That is not an in-kind donation. That is not a campaign donation to do this. There has to be a different crime. So she was out for the money. She decided she would go for the money. When she got Michael Cohen to agree to pay her $35,000 over a period of 12 months per month, she agreed to it because she couldn't find additional money anywhere else. And she signed the NDA. Okay? All about money. I'm glad that 5811 got mine. Yeah, I know. I'm trying to keep this on the up and up, man. I'm trying. No other comments about your comment about some of the verbiage that I've used in describing a former. I mean, is she a former or current? I don't know. I'm proud to say.
Depends on the day of the week.
I'm proud to say I don't know. I mean, she was an actress in the adult film industry for a number of years. I don't know if she's still doing it or not, but retired, not retired, whatever. She's can we say washed up instead of dried up? One way or the other, for any reasonable people, we can get as salacious as we want, and CNN can talk about slut shaming all they want. Look, in order to shame someone, they have to have shame inside of them, right? Shame is your body or your mind telling you that something in your life is wrong. And if you don't have that ability to be self-aware enough to recognize that, then there's no amount of discussion that can go on that would make you shamed. So all of this nonsense about slut shaming is, by #NeverCNN, is intentionally diverting from the points of the case. And those are these. Donald Trump could ultimately serve, I think the figure that I saw was 130 years in jail. 130 years in jail if criminally convicted of all of the charges against him in the New York City case. And I beg of you to tell me what crime he has committed that would merit 130 some odd years in jail. Alvin Bragg has refused to define the crime that he claims Donald Trump was seeking to conceal when payments for a non-disclosure agreement were listed as a legal expense. Let's suggest for a moment that Bell K is on trial, that I am prosecuting Bell K for crimes. And one of the crimes that I say that he did was a misdemeanor that's already past the statute of limitations. But I say, well, wait a minute, but I'm tying that together with another crime, and that makes it a felony. That, I understand that this was a misdemeanor deal, and the statute is passed on that. But if I tie it to a felony, that has no statute of limitations. And if I tie it to another crime, it has no statute of limitations, and it becomes a felony. And so what does Bell K do? He is on trial. He is engaged in the fight of his life with regard to his freedom. He could go to jail for the rest of his life if convicted of this crime. What crime? We are still waiting to know what crime. Alvin Bragg has refused, and the judge has allowed him to refuse. None of this will pass appeal. None of this will get past a real judge in a real courtroom. None of it. Forget that it's Donald Trump. I'm telling you that there is a man on trial, and the prosecutors in the case refuse to tell him what crime he's accused of committing. Can you please tell me how in the world that is justice? In the American system of justice, I learned when I was a child that there are certain things that have to be done in a court of law. The prosecution has to do what? They have to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, that we are allowed to be judged by a jury of our peers, and they have to clearly define the crimes that they claim you committed and that you have a right to face your accusers. And if I sound upset about it, I am, not because I support Donald Trump, but because I support the United States of America and our justice system, which up until today was the greatest system conceived of on God's green earth. Perfect? Of course not. Imperfect? Absolutely. But it was a good system. It still is.
I have a question. You've got an extremely good memory. Do you have any recall of what was used as the justification for the payments Clinton made to the women accusing him?
I don't know that they used any justification.
So they just cut a check and it was like, okay, thanks.
Oh gosh, someone might be able to correct me. I know that they had the Clinton war room, and they called them bimbo eruptions, and they paid these women off to not come forward with their stories. But I don't know that they ever wrote these things off as, I don't know what. I'll be honest with you. I can't remember where the money came from.
It just stuns me that we have this going on, but when that occurred, it was like, oh, cost of doing business.
That's right. Oh no, it was an open secret amongst Washington D.C. circles. He was paying these women off, and I think as long as he was not using campaign money to do it, it was considered fine. Well, Donald Trump did not use campaign money to do this. He used his own money to do this. It infuriates me that you watch CNN for the length of time you watch MSNBC for the length of time that you watch. Thankfully, they have good people like Jonathan Turley over on Fox News, who has reminded us of this consistently, and what a great lawyer he is. That this judge in this case, Merchant, is allowing the case to go forward. The team of Donald Trump. Now think about this for a moment, and I know I have to go to a break. they aren't allowed to know the next witness that is coming before them. So his defense cannot. Let's imagine that Bell is on the stand. I'm trying to take it away from Trump to take the politics out of it. And I'm his attorney. And we're sitting in the room tonight. And Bell's like, man, I think it's going okay. And I was like, yeah, I think it's going good too. Hey, do we know what they're charging me with? No, we don't know the underlying crime yet, Bell. They won't tell us. Well, what about the witness? What are you doing to prepare for the witness tomorrow? Well, Bell, I don't know who's going to be on the stand tomorrow. They won't tell me. Wait a minute. My life is on the line. I could go to jail for 100 years, and they won't tell my defense team what witness is coming on the stand tomorrow so that you guys can prepare cross-examination? No, they won't tell us, Bell.
That's how you know it's all performative, because like you said, this is going to get thrown out on appeal.
Every bit of it. Every bit of it.